Welcome to the News Hour. The U.S. labor market made solid gains again last month, adding 151,000 more jobs just before the biggest federal layoffs began to hit.
Unemployment crept up to 4.1%. More than 7 million Americans are unemployed. Manufacturing had its best report in months with 10,000 new jobs, which President Trump hailed at the White House.
We've not only stopped that manufacturing collapse, but we've begun to rapidly reverse it and get major gains. We created 10,000 manufacturing jobs in February alone. That hasn't happened in a long time. And these aren't government jobs, which actually we cut. These are private sector manufacturing jobs. So we gained all of those jobs, 10,000 jobs, and we've barely started yet.
The economy actually last added more than 10,000 manufacturing jobs just a few months ago, back in November of 2024. But there are other warning signs of what could be ahead, not yet fully captured in this report.
The outplacement firm Challenger Gray reported more than 170,000 layoffs last month, more than 62,000 of those from the federal government. That is the highest monthly total it's reported since 2020. Julia Coronado is an economist at the University of Texas in Austin who runs her own firm called Macro Policy Perspectives. Julia, welcome back to the News Hour. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
So 151,000 jobs added in February. That is up from 143,000 in January. How do you look at this report? What do you see?
It was a solid report. That's a very respectable job gain, but there were under the hood some signs of cooling. As you noted, the biggest federal layoffs that have been announced and actually, followed through on really hit after the data was collected. The data was collected for this report through mid-February. Most of those layoffs have happened since then. So we expect something like a 30,000 loss of jobs in the March report, or maybe possibly even greater. We also saw the unemployment rate creep up. That's again still a very low, 4.1%, still a very low unemployment rate, so not in and of itself a warning sign. But we saw underemployment also rise. That is, we had almost 500,000 people take part-time jobs who wanted full-time jobs. And that's something we track as kind of a leading indicator of cooling conditions. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that.
You saw President Trump there emphasizing the 10,000 jobs added in manufacturing in particular. Those adds, though, they were dwarfed by jobs added in other sectors like education and health, where we saw some 73,000 jobs added. We saw 19,000 jobs added in construction. The president noted, though, that manufacturing has really been struggling. So does he have a point in pulling that out? Is that number of jobs added notable to you?
Not really. 10,000 is a relatively small number in the grand scheme of 150,000, which has been about the pace we've been seeing. And it bounces around from month to month. So I think you noted there was a greater than 10,000 job gain in November. It's been bouncing around plus minus. The manufacturing sector in general has been pretty subdued after a surge of goods spending during the pandemic. Consumers have really shifted their spending to services, and manufacturing has been flatlining. And most recently, some sentiment indicators suggest some warning signs. Of course, manufacturing is going to be the epicenter of any trade wars. And we hear anecdotes of a lot of uncertainty in terms of making plans, making capital spending plans or hiring plans when you just don't know what the landscape looks like.
Well, what about those concerns about the on-again and off-again tariffs from the Trump administration, that they could be inflationary, they could even lead to a recession? Do you share those concerns?
I think it's too early to say that the U.S. is heading to a recession. Certainly, we've seen the U.S. just continue to be more resilient than people expect, year after year, quarter after quarter. And one of the things the U.S. has going in its favor is that it is the most diversified economy. We have manufacturing, we have construction, we have professional services jobs. We have leisure and hospitality jobs, government jobs, all of them. Healthcare, as you noted, been a big contributor to job gains. So we have a really robust, diversified economy. We do worry, though, not just about the federal job losses. The federal sector is pretty small, it's less than 2% of the workforce. But there's been a lot of cuts in contract payments to contractors with the federal government. And that's probably twice as big as the actual loss of federal jobs directly. So we're really watching that carefully. Who contracts with the federal government? Pretty much everybody, from farmers to hospitals to universities to primary schools. And those are areas where job gains have been really strong over the last year or two. So we're watching for signs that those sectors that have really driven the gains feel the squeeze of both the reduced payments as well as just the uncertainty that hangs over the environment right now.
Meanwhile, Julia, in the minute or so I have left, I know you were at a conference in New York today where the Fed Chair Jay Powell spoke. Did you get any sense of how the Fed is preparing to navigate all of this? The tariffs, the dramatic government cuts, what's ahead?
So the message today was very clear that they're not in a rush to judgment. The plan has been to lower interest rates further. That's very complicated if they're facing a burst of inflation from tariffs. And the message from Chair Powell was, with a still solid labor market, we can afford to take our time and see how this combination of policies, trade wars and tariffs, restricted immigration, but on the other side, fiscal policy, potential deregulation. How does that all fit together and affect the overall economy? They're taking kind of a wait and see approach.
All right, Julia Coronado, Macro Policy Perspectives. Thank you so much for your time and insights. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.